first, what we'll do is we'll have a brief introductory presentations from each of our panelists, and they will give you more background about who they are and how they're thinking about AI tools. That word tools, it's like every time I say it, I'm like, what does that even mean? So hopefully we'll get a little bit more insight into that. And then we'll have a brief discussion, and then we'll look forward to your questions. So first up, I would love to introduce Marco Buongiorno Nardelli from the University of North Texas. Marco is a composer, computational physicist, and media artist at the University of Texas. And his perspective on AI tools is something I've been eager to hear about. So Marco, why don't you take it from here?
All right, thank you very much for the introduction. As Tristra said, I'm kind of taking the dual approach in my practice because I'm a trained physicist. I've been teaching physics for all my life. I've worked in computational sciences for 30 years, but I'm also a composer, and now I'm fortunate to have a joint appointment between the composition division at the University of North Texas and the physics department, and I'm also an external faculty at the Santa Fe Institute, that is an institute for the study of complex systems, and we'll see how this plays out in the music. So there are a couple of things I want to talk about, one is, given my background in kind of dual background, I always worked in open source environments, and so for me, developing software for either scientific or artistic application is part of kind of an effort of sustainability of community users. You can see this is an example of some of the libraries that I've developed or the big software products that I've been working on for many years. So for me, working in this environment is part of the creative process. It opens up accessibility to the tools, and it's very powerful because you work with many other people. Just as an example, one of the software that you had before in the previous slide, at any time, I mean, is a software that started in the 80s, and at any point in time, there are at least 50 developers that work on that particular software. And this is all open source, it's all academic based, it's all scientific, it's used by hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. So there is this empowerment and kind of democratization of the tools that for me is very important. Now, the other thing that I'm very passionate about is building knowledge about tools. And so there is something that for me is very important. It is a critical engagement and the demystification of AI. Even in the previous panel, I sense that there is this kind of identification of the tool as a person that is not. And the only way that we have to, the only way that we can kind of make people understand what are they actually engaging with is to show them and teach them how these things work. I mean, you might say, well, the math, I'm scared, but it's actually very simple. And here, what is really making the difference is the complexity of how you combine all these simple elements into a very complex network. Now, the other thing is that you cannot really participate to this if you don't understand how they work. And so there is this aspect of knowledge that empowers you as a creator also, as a composer or as a visual artist, a filmmaker, that you know actually what you are doing when you are using these tools. So AI tools, what I would like to see and what I'm working at when I'm developing AI tools is something that is personal and kind of individual to the person. And there are 4 points that I'm making here about accessibilities of these tools in general. So for me, as I said, open source and open data are central to my practice, but also the ability and the possibility of developing local models and personalized models that then you deploy into your creative process. Transparency and fair data, data locality, and the other aspect that we didn't talk about much is that unfortunately we need to have access to computational tools. I mean, we need computers to run these things, and in many places we don't. So some of us, I mean, I have access to supercomputers all around the country and the world, but other people don't. So how do we make sure that we can give access to everybody? Okay, so one of the things that for me are important in the realm of AI tools is that I don't want to reproduce things that exist already. So I want to generate things that are new. And for this, I hack the system. So sometimes I train with small data sets and look for errors or imperfections. Or I train less than I should, so I don't converge my model. And I get things out that are weird, but that I can incorporate into a composition, for instance. And I have a small example later. But so using AI as a new synthesis tool, for instance, or other kind of form of augmentation. I mean, we can skip this one. I don't want to talk about too much. But at UNT, we are developing with my students kind of libraries of different tools, because there is another aspect here that in the last 10 years, there have been a lot of different papers and demonstration of architectures by a lot of groups, computer scientists. They use music as kind of a prototype system for testing some of these architectures that are left there, and nobody's using them, because they are obsolete now with respect to the new libraries that have been developed. And there is a lot of, we can tap into these things and generate lighter models, lighter architectures that can be used in the creative process. I think I'm skipping the video because I don't think it's particularly relevant at this point. It's better to hear from the other panelists. I just the last slide and give you an example of what I think could be a model to design new tools for creative purposes. And this is the rave model of IRCAM. And you see here, there is a pipeline. And in this pipeline, the artist can take different positions. You can use the final product that has been developed by others. You can be in between other things. And you can actually start your model from scratch and just train it on your own data and recordings. So that's my view at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marco. Next, and you can feel free to clap if you want to. In music industry, people are like, "Why are you clapping? What?" Nobody claps at a music industry panel. They just fade away. Matt, would you like to go next and tell us a little bit about what you do and how Moises and Music.ai are approaching the subject of AI tools? This will be a great compare and contrast between Marco's open source approach.
So I'm Matt Henninger. I'm VP of Business Development Sales at Moises and Music.ai. And sort of picking up on what Marco was saying, we're really focused on the democratization of these tools and these AI models to really enable and enhance the creative process. We have, I think, roughly 57 million users now on this app. And at its core, I think what we're doing is we're bringing this features that you would normally see inside of a traditional DAW into your pocket. And this is where I think that this is going from an industry's perspective, is the app is global. It is not based in the United States. We have massive user bases all over the world, Brazil, Europe, Far East. We're watching musicians engage in a different way and start to appreciate music in a different way. And what I'm showing here at its core, and we'll see if the sound works, but we've started this with stem separation is kind of the key component of this. And we are, I think we've talked about it here a little bit already, traditional stem separation might be like vocals, drums, bass, guitar, and others. But we've now trained models down to like the individual parts of a drum kit. So I can give you hi-hat, snare, kick. I've trained models to identify lead vocalist against backing vocals, lead guitar against back. So we're getting to this level of granularity, and I'll see if this plays real quick, see if we get sound.
Everything goes my way.
We can go just voice.
Sometimes circuits disconnect.
Start building the drum kit back.
So focus.
Is we've built things, for example, up here you'll see in a partnership with Berkeley, song key, right? Inside of classrooms, we were noticing that professors were having to have everyone retune their instruments, for old recordings. Well, if we could center everything at A440, no retuning, keyboards played, everyone could practice, right? So a model simply just to do that, right, in its way, just say one click. And inside of the app, you'll see the ability to transcribe lyrics. We have multiple levels of chord detection. So we're now into, and when we present this data, we have the ability to give you Nashville chord symbols. We can give you 3 different variations of the chords plus extensions. We can sort of do, depending on the level of the musician, right? We can we're trying to bring them in. And what I think is happening is the creator pool. We've talked about this a little bit earlier in some other panels, is that the line in the music industry is really interested in how the line between musician and creator is blurring and changing. And
Could you just define musician versus creator, just to make sure everyone's...
Yeah, I think musician as, trained musician from a music school, someone who has dedicated their 10,000 hours to this, someone who, has the faculty on an instrument. Where you drift down to more creators is, how can I do something quickly on my phone? Maybe I haven't been introduced to an instrument, maybe I have, but I'm creating and I'm pushing content out onto these UGC platforms. And that line is blurring, and there is exponentially more creators than there are musicians. So you're watching the industry right now try and figure out, can we leverage and democratize some of these models to start to get more and more people engaged, creating more and more content. So I think what's really exciting for us is when I joined the company 2.5, 3 years ago, we had about 15 million users when I joined. And I thought we could double it, maybe, but to now be at 57, growing consistently. And what we're going to be trying to do is this is going to become, I believe, more of an ideation tool, where, for example, we're going to introduce the idea of there's a record button now inside of Moises. So you could create a voice memo, right, yourself singing, playing a little riff. Well, now you can take it in, stem separate it, slow it down, speed it up, do the sections. You can start to apply all these technologies to all these little ideas, right? And then propagate them out to the world and start to test. And so that's really what we're focused on, is empowering that creativity, but be very focused on the music application and also be incredibly focused in how we train. For example, we have 40 or 50 architectures for stem separation alone, all fully licensed, because we know how important it is to honor the copyright, to honor the creator, and to make decisions that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. And next, I would love to hear from Ray Sanchez. Ray is an educator, producer, songwriter, and guitarist who serves as the chair of the Department of Music, Media, and Industry at the University of Miami, and is himself a songwriter, publisher, and producer. So thank you so much, Ray.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to share my screen here in a minute. Actually, a little bit of an older bio.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't get it from ChatGPT.
It's okay. That once great department, we voted ourselves out of a department and became 4 different departments.
Oh my goodness.
I'm no longer a chair, but I am the Associate Dean for Strategic Initiatives and Innovation at the Frost School. And let me go ahead and share my application here with sound. Oh, sorry. Stereo. There. All right. And
all right, here we go. I hope you're enjoying this little chill track. one of the first things I created with generative AI. I used Ava to create the basic music bed, downloaded the MIDI, added my own sounds, added guitar, the bass, and mixed and mastered it, and here we are. AI's become an important part of my workflow. I've been using it quite a bit for stem separation, recently vocal transformation, and of course mixing and mastering. I'm also starting to use it for creation ideation, but I'm kind of at the early stages of that.
These are the tools that I mostly use. I've been a Cubase user for the last 25 years. But the source separation has been fascinating ever since I discovered Splitter maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Started trying splitting off old records. And kind of a personal project I've been involved with is taking some of my favorite old records and remixing them. Now, these are not for release, even though I guess we're recording them here. But the more I do these, I think I'm going to go ahead and create a set for live performance. It's kind of fun.
This is one of the first ones I did. You might recognize this. 1976, Al Stewart, The Year of the Cat. Amazing track. This beat map was very difficult because this was done in the studio live, no click track. In fact, if I remember correctly, it went anywhere from like 110 to 120.
Explanation should just tell you that she came in the year of the cat.
Now I used Cubase and spectral layers after I beat mapped it and pulled out the vocals, and this is what happened.
On a morning from a forgotten movie, in a country where they turn back time, you go strolling through the crowd like
It's important to note that on this one I kept the original beat map. I did not quantize it in any way. So the ebb and flow is still there of the original. But everything is on the grid.
don't bother asking for explanation. She'll just tell you that she came in the year of the cat.
A more recent one, and this is a work in progress. I know this is also going to be a controversial topic, but voice transformation. I discovered a very cool plugin called VocoFlex and decided that maybe there might be an interesting way to use it.
There I go, there I go,
I'm a
there
big
I go,
fan of
there
Eddie Jefferson's.
I go again.
This is a remix that I did of his 1969 track, There I Go Again. I extracted the vocals and did, in fact, quantize the tempo map. But the music that you're hearing is all my own reharmonization, production, and so on. Then I decided to see how I could use VocalFlex to transform his performance into my own voice.
There I go, there I go, there I go, there I go again.
So what I did here is I fed his track into VocalFlex with my voice as a target voice, a sample of my voice as a target. It's an experiment. It's interesting results. I don't know that I can do anything with it, but it just shows the possibilities of this new technology. Here's a screenshot of the VocalFlex. The yellow is me, and the circle with the dot in the middle, that's a target. The other colors there are different voice samples that are included with the program. You can actually automate the movement of that yellow circle in the middle, even control it with MIDI if you like, and morph between any of the samples. It's extremely powerful, and I've been having a lot of fun working with it. Finally, I've been teaching myself mastering for the last 10 years or so, and AI has completely transformed how I work with mastering. Listen to this. This is a track that I mastered back in 2017.
Glory in the
By the way, the section that you're listening to right now is something that AI calls the golden moment. I'll explain that in a few minutes.
As a little child in the hearts of all that follow his star, singing joy.
Now, this track was difficult to master because even though this part sounds like regular pop country kind of a thing, and this wasn't too difficult, there's a section about to come up that changed everything and made it a big challenge. This. And now we have this kind of big orchestral sounding section. The plugins that I was using in the previous section over-compressed the section. So I had to do something different. I ended up using two very different chains. But listen to how AI did this.
They say there's a night when angels sing, glory in the highest glad tidings.
So I did this last night in my room, using Ozone 11, the AI assistant, and in less than 2 minutes, it had this signal chain, and it basically gave me this master. It sounds, to me, better, bigger, clearer, but most impressive is what happens in this next section. Check it out. Kept all the dynamics, made it even bigger. Folks, it took me probably 3 hours or more to master the old one, and it took less than 3 minutes to do this. This is the mastering chain that Ozone came up with. Oh, and the original I had mastered in Ozone 5. This is now Ozone 11. So, big difference. And, I don't know that I would have on my own come up with that series of plugins there, or certainly that EQ curve. But at least it's a great starting point. I didn't touch it. I just basically did that last night in my room, said, let's see what it would do. And that was that. I'm also using AI for music analysis. Why is this important? Well, for me, identifying musical elements is really important. Yes, I'm a musician. I have a master's in studio writing and production, and I know what music is, but I always find it interesting the way other people think about music. And to me, it's really, AI gives me that tool in a way that nothing else has before. So especially this area, sentiment analysis and accurate tagging, because this is hugely important to marketing music today. I have my own small label. I'm out there trying to get my stuff out there. And I need to know how to properly connect it to the audience. And in between me and the audience is an algorithm that understands these words. So, so here's an example. This is from a site called Sonoteller, and the word golden minute came from them. Here it goes. So there it is. It came up with that section. That's why I chose it for the mastering. But I find it really interesting how it analyzed my music. Lyric summaries, pretty accurate. I don't know that I would say it exactly that way, but it's all pretty accurate there. The music analysis was the one that I found really interesting. Pop, yeah, I get. Country, yeah, I guess, because it's got acoustic guitar and mandolin, but it's not really a country song. Acoustic, yes. Indie pop, not sure. Folk, I would have not at all tagged it that way. Singer-songwriter, contemporary country, soft rock, but then chill pop and mellow pop. Those are really, really interesting. And then the key in voice analysis, yes, it's in the key of A, but it's actually at 104 BPM, but it comes up with 103.3, whatever, 66. And the vocals, low, mid pitch. My daughter's an alto, so anyway, turn that off. Anyway, so these are the tools that I'm using
mostly right now for music analysis. I'll go, and they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I've been using Fader quite a bit, but I think after this, I'm going to jump into Moises a little more. I've been doing these cohorts for the College Music Society on Music and AI. There is a document that I've been updating throughout all the sessions that have basically all the tools that I use and more, and articles and different things. So there it is for y'all to share. So
Thank you so much, Ray. That was really, really exciting to see the details of how you are using these tools. And last but not least, we have a remote panelist, Jovanka von Wilsdorf, who is, I know about her actually because she is an artist and a songwriter. When I first met you, Jovanka, I knew you as a performer and love your music, so I was a big fangirl. But Jovanka has a really unique experience engaging with AI, starting way back. Is that correct, Jovanka? Before this big hype cycle, you were involved with AI songwriting camps and using AI in very innovative ways to expand your creativity and enrich it versus some of the other methods we've heard for using AI tools. So now you work as an AI consultant as well as playing many other roles. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is super nice to be here and very interesting to listen to.
Great. Would you like to present a little bit about
Should I share my stuff? Should I do my 6 minutes?
Share your stuff, Jovanka.
Great. Okay, let's see. Chuck and optimize for video, sound. Yep. So I'm not sure what you see.
We're seeing your first slide, which is a lovely red slide.
And do you see it now?
Yes. Now it's
Is it?
full screen. Yes, it's looking good.
Cool. So yes, just to give you I am a musician. Since 2018, I'm working and experimenting with AI tools, coming from that I wanted to design a virtual pop artist in 2014, and I got signed to Universal, and long story short, we were too early, but I don't have time to talk about this in the 6 minutes, so I move on. But that was my intro to really combine my nerd gene with my musical background. And so I started to give workshops and learn a lot. I'm still learning a lot. In 2020, I founded the Diana AI Song Contest, and as far as I know until now, it's one of the only ones where you actually have live musicians on site working together. So there's no artsy-fartsy sending in pieces or whatever. It's really musician based. I'm a songwriter and BMG rights management, and since early last year, the musical director and artist coach of Sophia the robot at Hansen Robotics. Oh yeah, I forgot to turn on the GIF. Now, next. Hold on, I'm not sure if you see this. Doesn't matter. So I said I give workshops. For me, it's super important to make that accessible. So I'm working with classical trained kids. I work with profi musicians. I work with academia. They're actually the easiest to flatter. Classical trained kids are the hardest, I have to say. I do AI tastings, AI testings, AI playgrounds, and the whole thing is to really fuel curiosity, because we need a critical discussion about music and AI, or AI in music, and we can't have a good critical discussion as long as we're fear-driven. So that's why I make all my presentations like people think they actually drink orange juice or something. And then there's one of my favorite games is Bot or Not. And then I play different kinds of music, just snippets. And it's not about, is this made by AI, but which part and why? Why do you think so? And it's super interesting how different groups come up with, oh, I think this is because the perception changes. Like people listen differently if they are looking for AI. And suddenly is it about like, this is being robotic? No, that's not anymore. Is this too streamlined? Is this too clean? Maybe. So super interesting how different groups react to this. And actually after sparking a discussion or a tiny bit of exchange about this, people are very much on and very open to go into these tools. And what else can I do with you is a very important part, because as we heard and we saw some nice tools before, there are a lot of normal weird toys and tools out there. I would really like to define this a little bit into put this into 3 groups. It's because AI obviously is not AI. These are all things you can find out there. You have to combine them, you have to hack them actually to do something really nice with it. But to the 3 groups. So for me, there are the assistants, which means if I don't put in music, no music comes out. That's for example, the ozone thing, that's if I do a stem splitting, all that. So these are the assistants, super helpful. Of course, you can't even hear when they're used. Second group is the muse group. So this means I have a dialogue partner or a co-writer who I cannot hurt their feelings or their egos, which is kind of helpful sometimes. Then, and I do have to give something in, and I get something out that I can modify. The third group is, I call it the pizza service, meaning I can define, okay, I want double anchovies, mozzarella, and no tomato soup. But what kind of mozzarella that is, or the anchovies, I don't know. This basically means prompt to play. So I have some word in it, but I do not really have access to creating the music. Obviously, the LLMs last year were a huge game changer, because suddenly we had all this like prompt to play things. With these new tools, you can still work really creatively, but the stronger or the better, I say the better, these tools are, the stronger my own vision has to be, my creative vision, so that I don't get overwhelmed by that. I have to be very like on my toes and very fast forward to work with these tools. But then it works great, because I can get inspired by like phrasings. I can stem split it and just take out a little bit. I can turn that some audio into MIDI and assign it to a different sound, and then combine it again with another tool. So there are a lot of possibilities, and I love these things. Yes. You can also obviously make music with AI tools that are not made to do music with. Here I work with an emotional tracker, and I was just playing around with it like a couple of years ago and thought, wow, this actually looks like music, like a music score. And then I had the idea to assign to each emotion that is displayed by colorful curve, a classical musician read a text and have kind of the AI read my emotions and conduct the playing of these musicians. I still love that idea a lot, but to pull that off, it would have been too expensive in the beginning. So I worked with just one cello player, but a great cello player, Asha Bison Rouge. And she kind of took over and interpreted these different tools. I also created with a tool that's sadly not on the market anymore, which was Splash Pro. I created over 1,300 vocal samples in a certain key, and we started to reiterate what she came up with vocal samples on top, always on the topic of that one lyric. Actually, that was one of the lyrics I wrote for the virtual artist that never came to virtual life. And by now we've played that quite a few times. And the funny thing is, the first time we performed that, we put it up as a like experiment. And people thought it was a concert, which was kind of nice. So the next time we got booked was for this culture festival. And there we had already worked even more with it and created also visuals, also based on, it was very quirky tools back then. This is from 2022 or early 23. So the visual tools were wonderfully quirky and full of little mistakes, and we did great visuals with them. Yes. Next, why can't I? Oh, hold on. Also, now we get to Sophia the robot. In early 2000, no, this was 23, I think. I met Sophia and we decided to work together, or I together with Hands and Robotics, and we did an AI Robo Roadshow at the AI for Goods Global Summit in Geneva. And that was a 2.5-hour thing about the past, present, and future of AI and music. And I introduced musicians working with AI to visual artists. And it was super interesting to see how these people work together. I learned a lot. Obviously, Sophia knew a lot more about the past of AI, interesting. And I knew more about what's going on right now. After that, we decided to work together. And this is how I actually became her artist coach. And now let's listen to, this was just a little. Yes, and as you can see, there were a lot of humans in the game as well, which I always like, because my focus really is on making music with AI and not by AI. I'm not interested in music made by AI. And actually, Sophia, last year on the AI for Good Global Summit, performed her first 2 songs. So we are getting there, and that's quite nice. So I was talking about why is this not working again?
What,
Hold on, I will.
we can hear you, Jovanka. We heard, what appears to not be working? Can you let us know?
I would like to change my slide, and it does boop, 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 but not. So, but let me give
I
me
don't
a
know what's going on.
I mean, it's just packed, right? It's just stupid. It doesn't even let me escape. Here we go.
There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Ariana AI Song Contest. We saw one of the pictures also in the AI Robo Roadshow. This is the thing I started 2020 with. I co-founded that with the director of the CO Pop convention in Cologne. And it was beautiful because I had this idea about an AI song contest, and everybody I told about was told about that were like super excited, and everybody said, "Yeah, just do it." And we hop on board once it's running. And he was the first one who said, "Let's do it," and we did it. And actually, in 2020, we got 12 musicians, and that was on the peak of the of Corona. We got them from all over Germany to come live and in person to Cologne and work together, like with masks and whatever. And this, what we see here, is from I think it was the second edition, and it was the award ceremony. I think also here, I will play you a little trailer of the song of our last songwriting camp. The most important thing here, it is that you do not need to know anything about AI music tools before. You have to be a great musician. You get selected by a jury. 12 people get invited. They're put into groups of 3. They have 7 AI tools to work with. They only get 1 workshop with me, which is mostly because it's not rocket science, right? It's about mindset and combining and hacking, as we said. And then they work for 2 days. And in the end of the second day is an award ceremony. And they all present 1 song and 1 video. And the wonderful thing is, even though they all use the same tools, the songs are so different. And that's beautiful because it shows how strong the human part is in this, which I also like a lot. So let's see the little trailer.
And quicksilver in my fantasies. How can I stay human in this world full of poison dreams? Smoke in my lungs, but your venom coming out of my limousine. What a human would do, yeah. What a human would do.
Yes, and what you may also have noticed, we have a very high participants rate of female musicians. And that was a very interesting thing for us to find out, because we thought if we get out and so early with an AI song contest, that it would probably very much dude ruled. It was not at all. And we actually started to ask the participants, and what we found out, the answer is, it is not just about, obviously, what you give or what you offer, but also how you offer it and who. And just because it was me, a woman, I was the head, I gave the workshop, my name and AI was a little bit out there. And that was enough to be interested. And because the trailer was made from the first contest, and so much women were in there, the second one attracted even more. And this just once again is a teaching, and we can, put our foot down for whatever we want. We really have to show up. That is the only way we get a change going. So,
That's so important.
anyway.
Jovanka, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'd love for us to have some time for a conversation. Do you mind?
I'm done. I'm actually almost done. Can I have one
Okay,
more?
go for it then.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Oh, I really wanted to share that with you. Last week, we had a fantastic songwriting session across the ocean. I was at home in Hong Kong with Kath, while my music team, Jovanka and Fabio, worked on the music in Gran Canaria. Together with our fabulous guest Michelle, we wrote 2 new songs within 3 days. We took a deep dive into the theme of mirrors and reflections, and I was able to experiment with my new beatboxing skills. It was pretty intense, and so much fun. I love technology, which allows us to be creative together, no matter where we are, and it feels so good to finally be making music again. I can't wait to share the new songs with you. Stay tuned.
So, and actually, this is my last sentence for this. By now, we integrate her really into the songwriting, and I actually teach her to develop her own style and taste. And I thank you so much. Sorry for taking over.
No, it's absolutely fine. Jovanka, I'm glad you gave Sophia the last word there, and I had never thought about including robotics and robots as an AI tool, but there you go. Oh, could you please stop sharing so we can
Yeah,
see?
I'm trying.
It's all right. It's all right. Technology is wonderful. I wish I could just like yell like, hey, AI agent, please bring Jovanka on as our panelist and make me sound a little bit less scratchy, a little bit less like Miles
You
Davis.
sound great, by the way.
Thank you. Well, something every person on the panel has brought up is sort of how AI tools are already being used. And I love the wide range of perspectives that we've brought to the table. I'm curious, is there anything we missed? Is there anything important about the current AI tools that we have that we haven't highlighted? And let's stick to audio tools, though. Ray brought up something super interesting with metadata generation and tagging, which please, if you're a musician or a creator releasing music or videos, think about using AI to brainstorm, because that's really helpful. But audio tools, anything we missed? Marco, you do a lot of wide-ranging stuff. Is there an aspect, we talked about mastering, we talked about idea generation. Are there other things that you feel like we should address that are really important in the AI tool space right now? Or Matt, or Ray, or Jovanka, anyone can. I'd love to have a conversation as opposed to just, yeah.
So I'm not sure that it's like we didn't talk about it or that we are missing something, but I think that, I mean, I'm coming from a point of view of more kind of, I don't know, I mean, I hate to say art music, but
that's okay. You can
not
talk about art
really
here. It's all
I mean,
right.
it's whatever. I think that that I would like to see a deeper engagement, not just with commercial products, but with the tools that we can create. And I know this is like a perspective that is not very easy because it requires some technical knowledge that not many people have, and composers don't sometimes. I have students that are amazing and they're doing a great job in developing these tools for themselves. And so actually here is where we might have a conversation with Matt, because I really like to write my own codes and do my own training and do my own design. And it has to do with even, it's kind of a creative process. For me, writing music and being a composer is never improvising on something or having the inspiration to write a song. It's a lot of abstract work, it's a lot of construction, it's a lot of design, it's a lot of combining different things in a final product. And there are enormous numbers of layers here, and they start from the knowledge of the music spaces. I don't even want to say music in particular, because it requires understanding of many different aspects that are a complex system. I mean, that's where my foundation comes in a way. I mean, I look at music as a complex system and write music thinking about the complexity of the structures.
Yeah, so Matt, how does that look from a company that is trying to build a tool? Like, how does that differ, your perspective?
I think we've been quite focused, or I've been focused on too, is like the building blocks of the process. So the creativity, I mean, it's endless. I mean, what we've just seen in the last hour is just there's so many different ways, and everyone's process is different. Everyone's, inspiration is different. Like, the timelines for creation are different. The outputs, but underneath that, I think there can be a base layer of technology that enables every one of these processes to get better. I had a conversation yesterday about plugins, right? Plugins and DAWs, and I find myself saying it so much, is that like, musicians, they bend and break everything, and from that comes art, right? Like, the tools that, the music that we hear today is not, it's like the pedals that were used 50 years ago were plugged in backwards and the dials are spun the wrong way, and you get a tone and now you have U2, right? Like, it's like you bend it, you break it, and from it comes art. And I wanted to stay focused on the building blocks of that. So like the idea of being able to extract more information from audio that then can feed the next layer of it, So you think about how plugins behave and how they can, in your presentation as well, like as those graphs move and things happen in real time. Was there more information that we can pull out of your original composition and your original idea that may inform those things to start to be more creative, and then you get a chance to bend and break those? So it's to respect everyone's art, to respect everyone's creative process. There was this wave, I think, of all the tech came out, and like not a lot of people were asking, could we and should we, right? Those are some bigger questions that might have been skipped at the beginning. And now I see models getting smaller. I see them solving very bespoke problems. And I think that if we focus on being really good at some of the fundamental parts, then, the next level, build something on top of it. And I think that's when you get these multiple versions of things. And that's what gets me really excited.
And I love that, but in both your case and your case, smaller models that don't fit the paradigms we're using for LLMs and how we benchmark them, sort of in ways like breaking these models or focusing them are one area. I think that's the future of AI tools, but I definitely want to talk about that with everyone first. And Ray, one interesting thing that your presentation sparked was the contrast between automation and creativity. And so I love how you're kind of have in dialogue with these automated processes like automated mastering. So a lot of times AI mastering is seen as like put it in, press the button, now it's mastered, goodbye. Like Lander was a very much like self-serve for non-mastering engineers. But I love how you're pointing out, actually you can use this to spark a new idea, like what you heard in that bridge, or trying to find better metadata and tags. Like all of those are creative sparks.
Yeah, I like what Jovanka said and what also Matt said here a minute ago. You make music with these tools, not by these tools. I don't like most of the quote unquote online mastering things because it's just push a button. I want to push that button as a starting point, and that's something that particular tool, Ozone, does. I can go in there and just deconstruct it, break it, bend it any way I want, and because it's ultimately about, music is ultimately about one thing, and that's the emotional and human connection with someone else. I mean, with ourselves, but with the artist, but also with someone else. But it really begins with the artist. So I need tools that I can break, that I can do all kinds of stuff with. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I just know that I need it. So,
Love it. And here, I'm really hoping we can have a fun time with this question because I've been wanting to ask it the whole time. Like, what are the future of AI tools? And Jovanka, I would love if you would start this one off, because seeing your work with a robot, a humanoid robot, and also thinking about your work with emotion and mapping emotion and literally translating that into music. And Ray, you just brought up the emotional music connection, which is so important to keep in mind as we use AI tools. Anyway, how are you seeing the future, and what are you thinking about for like the next, I don't want to say 5 years, that's mean in AI, but like the next year and a half?
Yeah, actually, that's a generation in AI, I'd say.
Exactly.
That is, I can answer that with a punchline, but that's hard because there's, first of all, not one kind of music, not one kind of musician. And there are musicians who love to do things with their hands, and they will never use AI, they don't need it. There are other people who will get sparked and enabled. This is what I see with people who are inspired. They might even be against AI in the beginning, and they are inspired by also by the way that I make it look very easy and very playful and disruptive and all that. But what you said, that this is creative sparks. So that is a whole group of musicians. I think it will be very much normalized to work with AI. I think this is very interesting. The pizza services, or let's say, just say it out, Udio and Zuno and their colleagues, might not be so super successful after all, because real musicians like to do music. And the people who are very inspired by just pressing a button and be like blown away by how great that sounds, I'm not sure if a normal person will pay for that €10 a month over a long stretch of time. So this prompt to play things might help in certain areas. As I said, you can be inspired by them too. I doubt that that actually is a business model that will hold up. I do believe in the assistants. I do believe in the muses. And I do believe that we have to speak about fairness in AI and about because obviously we are using data. I'm using data too, by the way. And we don't need AI to make bad music. And we don't need AI to steal. So being a songwriter at BMG and knowing about these professional writing camps, right? So we can use it for that, or we can blame it for that, but it all starts with us over and over again. So using fair AI tools where you know the data set, or you use your own data set, is very important. To talk about that is important. To talk about that is much easier when people are excited and inspired. So that's why I'm talking very easy about these things, very fun, very playful, because this is the way I get actually people to talk with me about fairness and about the buzzword democracy in AI and music. What a buzzword. In democracy, as far as I know, you have a vote just for being a citizen. In AI tools, you got to pay. And if you want to work with some of the most professional tools, they cost money. And if you want to combine them and be very creative and playful with them, they do cost money. Or you need a good advice, someone who brings you in, or you need like some nerds around you, like you guys, like people who are just great and build their own little tools. And then you got to be invited. So democracy is a buzzword, a very important one.
Yeah, okay, I think Marco has something to add to that.
And I'm going back to my first point about open source. Recently, like 4 days ago, Hugging Face, that with other AI company was invited by the governmental task force on AI to submit recommendations. They actually are the ones that recommended a strong investment in open source AI in the US to remain, to maintain some sort of hegemony, if not importance, on the global market. And there are many examples in the past century where open source projects have been revolutionary. Take Linux, take most of the programming languages like Python. These are all open source. They are all resources that are available to everybody at no cost. And I believe that investment in these tools in this area is fundamental for the advancement of AI tools in the music business in general, and for composers, for performers, for artists, even across disciplines, more into visual arts and performing arts in general. So I think that what I would like to see in the next 5 years or 2 years, 3 years,
3 months,
is more of these tools coming online and more of the community coming together to develop these tools at a different level.
And I love that. That really plays into what you were talking about, Jovanka, with accessibility and inclusivity. Really, the question of teaching people how to use open source materials or build their own models or train their own models is maybe a really important step, more than perhaps showing them introducing them to a pre-made AI tool. No offense, Moises. Moises is super useful.
There is clearly the learning curve is steeper.
Yeah.
Because it's not, most of the time it's not just there, you have to do something, but I think that it builds the community, builds knowledge and awareness.
But as one of the previous panelists noted, the AI era may not be for the lazy. So that said, I want to go back for just a second.
Music is not for the lazy. Creation is not for the lazy.
Creation is not for the lazy or for the faint of heart, or for, I completely agree. So one last thing I would love to ask y'all is, we often, when I look at the existing AI tools, we're looking at things that were developed as a basis of some of them were developed on the basis of traditional recording technology, right? So stem separation is based on how we would work in a studio to lay down a multi-track recording. I think AI has the potential to do all sorts of other completely crazy, and I want to say a swear word, completely crazy stuff. What are we thinking about in terms of where we could go that has nothing to do with, the DAW, which is itself a copy paste of the studio recording equipment? Where could we go that AI could like open up a completely new understanding of how music tools might look and sound?
A lot of the conversations, I find myself falling into this trap where I keep referring to music as something that is static and it's something that I grew up with, right? I think of, the LP and I go back to the thing, and every time I went back to it, it was the same. I get the nostalgic feeling and I find myself in that trap. And I've realized that the more I think about the art and music maybe not being static, where to the idea of train your own model with only your own music, right? Like, can this be an experience where I go to you as an artist and it's the same, but it's not the same every time, right? And maybe other inputs are coming into that as well, right? Like, we are, as more data comes into those models, like maybe it's the speed at which your phone is moving, and these other data that can come in and start to augment that work. I think that to me is where I start to go, man, I have to break that idea in my head for creation and for what did I get when I wanted music from somebody? What was my expectation of that? I think that's where I see this going is you're gonna see artists really pushing that boundary. And it's like, yeah, maybe it's an app, right, that is your favorite artist, and every time you go back to it, you now have more control of that, and it's constantly being updated by their new work. I mean, start to bend the way you listen, and I think you start to go, wow, this could really impact a lot of things.
And the embodied thing, Jovanka, goes back to the robotics as well, like how that's a really interesting idea that we could start to embody or physicalize music.
I think it is dangerous to assume that AI has to do the crazy shit, because that again is our mindset. It is so much about how we work with these tools. And of course, I want to be surprised and I want to be taken off guard. And actually, the stronger my vision is, the more I'm open for surprises. But to say that AI should be the crazy one for me, and it's like obviously it's super spectacular and all that, but I think that's why I like so much the second group I was talking about, the muses, where I do give something in and what comes back at me might very much surprise me. And if I have the idea to say, oh, but I actually only like this one line in it, or I like the groove of the bass, I take it out, I put it into my thing, I assign it to a different sound, I turn it around. But again, this is mindset. And if we learn and teach each other that's also an open source approach, basically, to open to each other with these helpful tips and to be welcoming. That is the craziest thing we can do with AI.
Fantastic. We're probably at time for questions now. So if anyone online or anyone here in the room would like to ask a question, or 12, well, maybe not 12.
This is a question for Ray. It's maybe a little bit of a boring question, but I'm curious if, you mentioned how you had those unusual sort of genre tags on that track you were showing us. Yeah. I wonder, have you done any experimenting with like looking at how different systems tag the same track?
Absolutely. Actually, it would have required longer presentation, but I've actually, I use Sonoteller, but then I also use, just in my flow for releasing a track, I use a site called Is It a Good Playlist? isitagoodplaylist.com. It analyzes tracks, but it also analyzes your music and it suggests playlists for it. But then the other one is SubmitHub, does a similar thing, and it'll analyze your music and give you what it thinks it is. And then, so yes, I've used a lot of different systems, and yeah, it's usually okay. I've been, so the last kind of big project that I work with is my son is also a producer, and I work with him mastering his record as well as helping him release it. Well, his music is really hard to put into one box, and because it has elements of alt pop, some hip hop, but other things, like a lot of different things. So, that's where I got deep into this thing. It's like, wait, if we have to play with these algorithms, then how am I going to figure this out? So anyway, yeah. So there are a lot of different systems out there, and I'd say try them all.
But I'm curious, did you get differing results? Were they meaningfully different, the tags?
Not hugely different, but different enough so that it makes me think, okay, well, should it be over here or should it be over here?
Thanks.
What's the difference between lo-fi and chill? But it's a thing.
Be thinking about that one all day.
Yeah.
Great. Do we have anyone online who wants to ask a question? Just want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay, awesome. So, Aldo, do you want to ask?
This is also for Ray. It's more of an observation, though.
Yeah.
You said that when you got to that moment in that night, that this was called the golden moment.
Yeah,
and
that's what AI called it.
Yeah, exactly. You attributed it to the AI. And while I admire your willingness to bow to our AI overlords, AI itself says golden moment is a widely attributed, widely used, commonly expression term, came from Vaishnavism. So
yeah, great. I just learned something.
It's not, AI didn't invent something that cool yet.
Great, thank you.
No, okay.
So my background's in computer science and software engineering. I've been programming, I think, since the Ford administration, and I've been playing guitar for nearly as long. And of course, one gets in the way of the other. When you're a professional programmer, you can afford tools that real musicians can't afford. So I have a lot of the tools people have been talking about, but there's one set of tools you guys haven't really explored. I'm going to tell a quick story. About a week ago, I was looking at some old recordings I'd made of our garage band, which have 90-minute sets in them, and I have a spreadsheet with what the actual names of the songs are. Well, I've been messing around with programming in Claude and ChatGPT and Grok, and said to myself, I wonder if I could actually break these out. So instead of thinking like a programmer, I told it what I wish I had, something which could take 90-minute sets, read my spreadsheet, break it up into tracks, get rid of the banter, and upload them back. Amazingly enough, in about 45 minutes, without thinking like a programmer, I had that application. I did a little bit of tweaking. The sucker flew. I was really amazed. So the question, the rap I'm turning into a question is, a lot of you should think more about Python, Super Collider, Max themselves as tools, and as tools that you think you don't have access to because you don't have the skills or you don't have the background. You now have this assistant, which can get you into a realm of bespoke tools for your craziest ideas way faster than you ever thought. And I'm not talking just about the youngsters. If I had a beard, it would be about as gray as anybody's here. You can all have access to this, and the bar has just gone way lower.
Isn't that called vibe coding? Isn't that the term of art right now?
I think you need to know a little bit more. My inner John Henry doesn't want to throw in the towel and say you need to know nothing. But
I love it, and also there's you're sort of bringing up this sort of next generation of assistants, which is often referred to as agentic AI or AI agents, which still feels kind of like a BS term, but there is the fact you can ask AI to go and do a series of tasks on your computer and implement something and upload everything to your distribution thing of choice is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
thanks
just
for bringing that.
shortly, all the things that we are developing are all Python, of course. I'm actually a proponent of Python coding in music in general, not just AI. So all my libraries and the libraries that I develop with the students are Python libraries, sound libraries that use specific packages for audio reproduction, and we can do everything that we can do in Max in Python, and I'm all with you.
Amazing. All right, are there any other questions? All right, awesome. Well, with that, we will break for... Yeah, and thank you, Jovanka, so much for dialing in.